So this last week has been very eventful in regards to Syria because, you know, they're trying to recycle the chemical weapons fiasco on several fronts. So the first thing, on April 12th, you had the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, the OPCW, publish a report. Okay, take a look. They're saying basically that Syria has been using chemical weapons, that the Syrian Arab Army is guilty of using chemical weapons. Now, when we say guilty, I mean that figuratively because, again, the OPCW is not, a judicial body. So April 2020, March 2021, that was the duration of the investigation, and the incident they're focusing on is the 4th of February 2018 in Saraqib. You know, they use this today as a reason to ban Syria from the OPCW, if you can believe that. Syria stripped of OPCW member rights over poison gas attacks. They say Syria will have its own voting rights revoked and will be banned from holding any offices at the Netherlands-based agency. The measures were in response to an OPCW investigation last year that found the Air Force of Bashar al-Assad had used nerve agent sarin and chlorine gas in 3 attacks on the village of Latamina in March 2017. And, you know, this is the first country that has its member rights revoked. Syria is the first country that this happens to. And 2/3 of them voted for this. So 2/3 majority was needed. And of course, France is actually the country that put forward this proposal, right? Because they're right on the anniversary of our independence from them. And of course, Britain and the United States voted for it. Russia, China, Iran, they voted against it. I think about 15 countries, including Syria, who voted against it. And, you know, it's a shambles, right? The OPCW has no credibility whatsoever. And I want to play you a clip over here. This is from, hold on. Here we go, from Mick Wallace, okay? So he was speaking at the EU. He's a member of the EU Parliament. And, you know, this is from April 15th. So this is just a few days ago, right? Let me play you the clip. And keep in mind, he's speaking in front of the Director General of the OPCW, who's present, okay?
In March 2019, the OPCW put out a report on the alleged chemical attack in Duma, alleging Syrian guilt. But a series of leaks emerged from inside the OPCW, showing that the inspectors on the ground reached a very different conclusion. The so-called chemical attack, which the US, France and UK used as an excuse to bomb Syria, most likely was staged with the help of the White Helmets, a UK-US paid propaganda entity. We need clarity, we need the truth. As Julian Assange says, if wars can be started by lies, peace can be started by the truth. You are aware from the leaks, now in the public domain, that in June 18, a month before you became Director General, the original team report on the Duma incident found that there was no evidence of a chemical attack. But this was switched to a highly doctored version that made unsupported claims of that chemical attack. On top of the doctoring and censorship of the original report, there were other well-documented scientific and procedural irregularities. This includes the expert opinions from toxicologists who ruled out chlorine as the cause of deaths of the victims. Yet their opinion was suppressed in the final report. Also, we had false information leaked from the OPCW, the NATO...
Can you please conclude?
Sorry?
Can you please go to your conclusion?
Yeah. Director General, the credibility of the OPCW is at stake. Why will you not heed calls from renowned international figures, including the organisation's first Director General, Jose Bostani, and several former team leaders from the OPCW, to meet with all the investigators, including the dissenting inspectors?
I cannot accept that you can call into question the work of an international organisation and that you call into the question the word of the victims in the way you have just done. And I would ask you, Director General, to please forgive what we just heard, which seems to me to be fake news. I give you the floor.
President, why am I the only one that was interfered with here? Is there no freedom of speech being allowed in the European Parliament anymore? What's going on?
I mean, that is just obscene. That is outrageous. Did you see how she's trying to cut him off? Get your conclusion, please. Motherfucker. Oh, you know, when it suits them, it's the most important issue in the world. But when you present them facts from their own goddamn scientists, which they don't want to hear, oh, get your conclusion, please. Oh, I'm so sorry, Director General. I can't believe that this deranged fellow just insulted you with his truth. I'm so sorry. What on God's earth are these people? Man, do you know how vile you have to be to come in and drag Syria's name through the dirt for the last 10 years? That's all they've been doing. That's all they've been doing for the last 10 years. Dragging Syria's name through the dirt. And I'm going to get back to Duma, which she's talked about here in a second. The OPCW itself came in and dismantled Syria's entire chemical weapons program in 2013, 2014. All right? This is documented. This is proven. Russia, the United States, the OPCW oversaw this. They certified Syria has destroyed chemical weapons facilities. International inspectors say this is from October 31st, 2013. That's a fact. That's a fact. I mean, if you want to come here, if you want to come here and tell me that this is not true, I mean, either you're lying or you're incompetent. It is your responsibility to do that, right? The Syrian government said, okay, come in and just take everything. Did you get rid of it or not? Be clear. Did you get rid of it or not? Because this attack that happened in Saraqib, okay, which I mentioned to you in the beginning of the report. Take a look. Look what they're saying here, man. They're saying that a helicopter of the Syrian Arab Air Force under the control of the Tiger forces hit eastern Saraqib by dropping at least one cylinder. The cylinder ruptured and released a toxic gas, chlorine, which dispersed over a large area, affecting 12 named individuals. So let me get this straight. You're telling me that the Syrian army went through all that effort to make one cylinder for 12 people? After you took away all their chemical weapons, and they already know that, whoa, Obama just said this is the red line. Who believes that? Please, could someone, for the love of God, explain to me the strategic value of that? What is the strategic military value of that? Just use common sense. What is the strategic value of one cylinder for 12 people? Who are these 12 people? You want to come here and tell me it's the, I don't know, the heads of the Israeli government? Maybe I believe it. Yeah, I believe it then, maybe. But just 12 random civilians? Who believes this? Honestly, who believes that? What is the incentive to do that? There is no incentive. There is no strategic value. There is no military value. There is no logical purpose in doing that at all. Now, going back to Duma, because this is very important, what Wallace was just talking about. In 2018, in Duma, which is just outside of Damascus, it's in the countryside so just outside Damascus, you have Ghouta, right? And then Duma is well, it's not really a city. A town is perhaps the more correct term, right? It's in Ghouta. And so they said that a chemical gas attack had taken place there, okay? And the United States, France, Britain, they used that as an excuse to go and bomb Syria. They didn't even give time for the OPCW inspectors to actually go there and see if a chemical gas attack had happened. They just took the word of the white helmets and the videos that they're posting. And remember, the white helmets, we know for a fact, we have the receipts from the Foreign Commonwealth Office, which is Britain's State Department, that the white helmets were financed and set up by British intelligence, right? So they just believed those videos and went and bombed Syria with no UN mandate. Remember, you can't just go and bomb a country because they did something you don't like. You have to go to the United Nations. You have to go to the Security Council. You have to get permission, right? You can't just bomb another country because you feel like it, especially when it's based on lies. So they didn't even let the OPCW do their work, first of all. They just immediately, after 2 days, they're like, okay, we're going to go bomb it. Now, the OPCW, when they finally got there, right, they sent a fact-finding mission. And Henderson was the guy leading it. And, you know, this is astonishing because I've covered all this before. Look, you know, I covered all this stuff with the white helmets with Syria and the Duma gas attack when they came out, but it has like 300 views because I didn't have that many subscribers at the time. So go watch it so that, you know, the video, I covered all this. I went into detail with all the WikiLeaks information. Look, this is, look, it's got 367 views, man. Go watch it. I did good work, man. I also had Aaron Matei on, and this was a really good one with Aaron Matei. I really enjoyed that because he's on top of his shit. He knows this better than anyone. And, you know, what was really cool is that I was also providing the geographical strategic meaning of this with maps. Like I'm showing you, the Syrian army has already taken back this entire area of Ghouta. Why on earth would they use chemical weapons when they've just won a giant battle that took 2 months to win? Like the day that they win, all of a sudden there's a chemical weapons attack. Like, man, there must be some real dumb asses running the Syrian army if everything the OPCW says is true. They're using chemical weapons, one cylinder, from a helicopter for 12 people, and then they bomb Duma after they've already taken back the goddamn region of Ghouta. Who believes this crap? Like, you have to have no clue whatsoever about what's going on to believe that shit. And of course, that's how the media reported. They don't tell you any of this. This is just like open information anyone can get. Not to mention the fact that we have the receipts, we have the internal emails, we have the toxicology reports, we have the ballistics reports. There was no chemical gas attack. The scientists, the literal scientists of the OPCW who were sent there to investigate came back and said, hey, there was no chemical gas attack. It's fake. The canister was placed manually. How do they know this? Because they're engineers. You know, it's their job to study that. They understand ballistics. The toxicology reports, it has trace amounts. It's not enough. It could have come from household appliances. And you have all these things that they removed from the report. So you want to come here and tell me that this organization has any credibility left? How can you trust them? Because their entire thing is to give you the science. The OPCW, their job is, of course, you know, to uphold the treaty again for the ban of chemical weapons, which of course Israel has never signed. And you know, their job is to do what they did in Duma. They go there and they collect samples, they study the site, and then they deliver a report. Did this happen? Yes or no? And when they established there was no chemical gas attack, the OPCW censored it. They completely doctored the entire report. And then they tried to discredit Henderson as well. They said that, oh, he wasn't there. The guy's the literal team leader. He's not just a member of the team, he's the team leader. And they tried to discredit him and say that he had nothing to do with, I mean, lunacy, like actual lunacy. And then they made a new team, right? They had a new team established. So not the people who actually went to Duma, to the site, the fact-finding mission. No. They had a new core team assembled. And there's like one person from the original team who's part of it. One person. So the rest of the people writing this new report weren't there. It's a scandal. I covered it, so please go watch those videos because, you know, I went into detail on my own. I went into detail with Aaron, and it's utterly scandalous. And now you want to come here and tell me that this organization is issuing more reports and we're supposed to believe them? They don't even listen to their own scientists. How can anyone trust them? They're not about science. This organization does not accept science. They are science deniers. Why? Because they want to fit a political narrative. Right? They're taking the evidence and not even molding it. They're just completely doctoring it to fit foreign policy that France, the United Kingdom, USA are pushing. That's it. I can't believe that this surprises anyone. Like, how can you be surprised by this after 2003? We've seen this movie before. How many countries have to be bombed and invaded over weapons of mass destruction before you finally get it that you cannot trust these Western countries when they talk about this topic? How many times does that have to take place? And Iraq was way bigger. Those lies were tremendous. They were saying this guy is giving nuclear weapons to Al-Qaeda, which again makes no sense if you understand the politics of the region. So this organization is completely discredited. It's an embarrassment. I mean, yeah. Look, I have the stuff from WikiLeaks over here. This is just one leak. This is one document from the Duma documents. Okay, this is an internal OPCW email, and you know they're saying how they're saying how the whole thing was doctored. Okay, it says particularly worrisome. They're saying that in the original one, because you have to understand something. We had, I tried not to go back and reopen the whole thing because I'd rather you go watch that video where I just examined it in full. But we've seen the preliminary report, the first one, the actual one, and then of course the doctored one and the final one, and they just deviate completely. And here you have one of the inspectors telling leadership like, "Yo, what are you doing? Everything that you've written here is not what we found in the site." And again, I just told it to you a few minutes ago, right? That there are trace amounts. You know, the toxicology reports just don't match the symptoms of someone who's actually been through a chemical gas test. So, you know, there's all of that. And another thing that I would point out as well, a few days ago, and I think you had Aaron who was talking there as well. This was at the UN Security Council. One of the people who spoke there, again, speaking of Iraq and weapons of mass destruction, you had Lawrence Wilkerson. Okay, so he's the former chief of staff for, you know, Colin Powell, who's Secretary of State. You remember Colin Powell? I showed you the picture earlier. He went to the UN and he lied about chemical weapons. So this is his former chief of staff. I'll let him speak. All right, you just listen to what he says.
I know how we tried to influence the IAEA with regard to Iraq and other countries. I know how, as I said before, we tried to undermine the ICC, we being Washington. So I'm here as an impartial observer, if you will, but my real interest is in, as I think most of your interest is probably in, is keeping this international organization sound. The OPCW is a very important organization. It represents one of the few more heinous utensils of warfare, if you will, that we have largely gotten rid of, and I would like to see totally eradicated from the face of the earth. And I'm a military professional telling you that. There is no good to be had out of chemical weapons, period. Over. Conversation ended. So we need to make sure this organization has the power and the backing and the support to do its job. And I know how we
used in Syria, and that it was the government of Syria that did it. And then when I saw the photographs and other things, I know a little bit about VX and sarin and chlorine and so forth. I saw that some of the claims were preposterous. They were preposterous, simply preposterous. When you see a man standing beside a crater, for example, and alleged VX or sarin was used, you know it's preposterous. The man would be dead. I know how effective these kinds of chemical weapons are. And I happen to know also what kinds of weapons Syria had in its stockpile. We had a dossier on that for a long, long time during the Cold War. So count me very skeptical on even any use of chemical weapons of consequence by the Syrian government in Syria. That's the start point. And then this occasion is used in Syria.
All right. So, I mean, I don't know how much further I need to go, but, you know, it's incredible. You also have, of course, a letter that was signed, I think on March 15th. So just last month, you know, Oliver Stone, Noam Chomsky. I mean, just a plethora of people that want the OPCW just to meet with with its own scientists to, you know, sort this issue out, because the OPCW has, as I told you, they've tried to discredit Henderson. They've tried to ignore this completely. I think when Aaron was speaking, the UK and French ambassadors left the meeting. I mean, they're so disgustingly rude. Like, you know, they behave like thugs rather than diplomats. And, you know, it's astonishing that people are still buying this crap. They're still believing this nonsense after Iraq. They're still believing this after the leaks. I mean, I don't know what to say, man. And the media goes along with it. You know, to this day, the New York Times, they've never apologized or corrected the Duma story. You know, you go on their website, they have a 3D, not reenactment, but a 3D model of, you know, the attack in Duma with the canister that was placed there manually, which they don't tell you, right? Like, they just leave it up there, like as if it's a fact, like as if these leaks that I just showed you in WikiLeaks never, you know, occurred, never happened. These people are conspiracy theorists of the highest order. They start wars based on lies. They deny science. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. And I mean, the OPCW, we already know from the former director from Bustani that he was intimidated by John Bolton. You know, he said, like, we know where your kids live. This was in the lead up to the Iraq war. So, you know, this organization, I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but it's useless. You know, if it keeps getting either bullied by the United States or just flat out hijacked, and you know, they're doctoring the reports. No, this is not an independent scientific body. This is not an independent organization. It's not an unbiased organization. This is all political. They're trying to drag Syria's name through the dirt. And you know, like, you can come here and we can go through valid critiques of the Syrian government without resorting to flat out lies. But they have to resort to flat out lies because they want to justify bombing Syria, like when the UK, France, and the US did it. They want to justify regime change. So that's why they keep bringing out the most outlandish, extreme lie possible, just like they did with Saddam. Like, Saddam not only has chemical weapons, he can build them in 45 minutes. Bioweapons in 45 minutes. And he's also giving them to Al-Qaeda. Like, it just, you know, next he's going to be, he's making them with fucking aliens on Mars. The most outrageous lies with zero evidence. Why? Because they use that to go to war. So, you know, people shut up when there are body bags coming home, when there are billions, trillions being spent on the military, you know, more like lining the pockets of weapons manufacturers. So that's what it's about. And unfortunately, the OPCW is just serving a political agenda. It's really disgusting. So, you know, honestly, you should really just, if you're not familiar with this issue, although I'm sure many of you are, you should really go watch this video I did with Aaron. I think it was, hello everybody. There we go. That's my voice playing. I think it was, if I may say so, I think we did a really good job of breaking it down. And yeah, you can see here I was going through the maps, trying to explain how they were taking back this entire region of Ghouta, right? And it got to the point, like, they've taken back everything except this little thing. And then, oh, there's a chemical attack. Oh my God. Like, just obscene. And then, of course, we went through the entire WikiLeaks revelations and all of that. So yeah, definitely go check that out. Just type Aaron Matei, Richard Medhurst, you'll find it. And again, I'm just, like, I'm disgusted, but I'm not surprised that they've tried to kick Syria out of the, or at least suspend its rights under the OPCW. You know, it's just like when they also removed Syria from the Arab League. Like, how are you going to remove Syria from the Arab League? That's the motherland of Arabism. Like, wait, you know, this is ridiculous. It doesn't mean, it's all political. It's all political. So, you know, and ironically, it's who's actually using these chemical weapons? Who is actually using them? It's the terrorists, right? Because it's a win-win for them. They're making them with household supplies, as we saw, and they're also inviting in bombings. They're inviting in regime change, which suits their agenda, right? It's disgusting. So again, I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all. And I think the reason that they're recycling this chemical weapon stuff is because right now in Syria, you know, it's been a stalemate for the last 2 years, essentially. Again, we have the situation where most of the country is back under the government control, and then northeast you have the Kurds and the Americans, and then north or northwest in Idlib you have the Turkish army and their militias and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and Al-Qaeda and all these. So, you know, it's kind of a stalemate, and they're trying to they've run out of tricks at this point, right? Who are the rebels that are in Syria? What's left? It's all Al-Qaeda. Like, you can't even pick out like some elements and then claim that they're moderate. No, it's just Al-Qaeda now. So, you know, they're resorting to this again. They're a bunch of conspiracy theorists. They're you know, science deniers and liars of the highest order. These people make Alex Jones look like a philosopher. Like, seriously, like these people start wars. They kill and displace millions based on these lies, you know, based on these conspiracies. You know, it's insane.